We'll have to.
Now we are now live on YouTube. This meeting.
Can you see it on YouTube?
It says now streaming live.
It says it. Oh, right. So it's redirecting to YouTube. So it should now be on YouTube. Yeah, there it is.
You've got.
I shall now share my screen. Oh, hang on. Right, sorry, I can hear myself on YouTube. I need to mute my YouTube. Right. Great. I'll share my screen now. And then we'll let people in. Okay. So if Katie or Esther want to let people in so I don't have to faff around with that, that would be great.
Hello. Good morning.
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 Morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was just saying I'm working on the potential tactical options to foster command support myself.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. We'll be with you in just a moment. Could I just ask everybody to mute their microphones?
David, could you put John Rawlings? I can't. There's no way I can alter it here. It keeps going with JLR.
Yeah, we can sort that, John.
Thank you. We'll now mute.
Thank you. This is the first time, of course, we've done it all this way, so everybody's holding their breath. Quite a few people to admit into the program. And somebody will tell me when we're all ready to go. Strange times, isn't it, when we're all doing things this way. 27 participants so far.
David, do you just want us to raise our hand if we want to make a comment about something?
Yes, we'll take, sorry, is that Dora?
Yes.
Hi there. Yes, if you can raise your hand, that means you go into participants. At the bottom of your screen, there's a box marked participants with two little people. And if you click on that, it gets a list of everybody who's here. And there's a box there that says raise hand.
Right.
And that will tell me that you wish to speak. But because of managing it in this way, I'm really going to say when I'm going to ask for questions. So we're not taking questions during a presentation, and then we'll come to a point for questions afterwards. I hope that will work for everybody.
Yeah.
Because while we're sharing the screen, I can't see everybody anyway, and you can't wave your hands. Rashmi, I know that that's a challenge for you using the screen, but I'll try and find your picture when we come to questions. If you've got a question, you can wave your hand at me or just interrupt. I think that's probably the best thing to say. Is that okay, Rashmi?
Please.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Good. Thanks. Are we really ready to go then? At 11:05?
There's no one in the waiting room.
Right. Good. So are we just switching to Spotlight for a second and then going back to the presentation? Can we do that, Joe?
Yep.
Great. Well, I want to welcome everybody to the annual meeting of Healthwatch Northamptonshire. I'm David Jones, the chair, and we're now getting used to these very strange times for doing these presentations, but we hope this will work for us. In a minute, we'll put up a slide and we'll show you the timetable. We've got 3 main presentations. And then there will be plenty of time for questions and comments as well. And just starting off, I've been reflecting on the challenging times we're in, and even down to what should I wear for today. And I was thinking, well, actually, this is a formal meeting. This is our accountability to the public of Northamptonshire, and I should respect that. So I've actually put on a suit and tie for the first time for months. And I had to decide what tie would I wear. And I don't know if you can see, but I bought one that I bought in India when I was in Mumbai for my father, actually. And that's got 2 significances. One is that it reminds me of the importance of our Black and minority ethnic communities from the subcontinent, but also with the elephant from Africa and the Caribbean and elsewhere. And my father has died, but he died after a period in hospital and in a care home. And that reminds me of the importance of family at this time and the importance of good care and how difficult it is sometimes to raise concerns about care. We were not always happy with the care he was receiving, and even knowing how the system works, it was really difficult to know how best to raise that. This pandemic has led us to behave in all sorts of different ways, but I feel quite different putting on a suit, and I hope that shows respect for the purpose of this meeting and for our real responsibilities. So thank you everybody who's come, and thank you everybody for taking part. And what we want to do now is to share the screen, Joe, and look at the agenda and note any apologies. Some have been sent through to me. Just a reminder, while we actually, if you could go back, sorry, Joe, could go back to the first one. We are live streaming, so all of this is live and recorded on YouTube. And if you don't wish to appear on the live stream, just turn off your Zoom by pressing stop video at the bottom of your left hand of your screen. Please keep your microphone muted unless you're asking a question, and I will come through and I'll invite people to comment one by one. Rashmi, who has sight difficulties, is the only one who's able to interrupt with a comment. And you can ask the chat function. I hope that makes sense for everybody. And so we can go to the next slide. And I know somebody sent me apologies, but Julie, do you or somebody want to mention any apologies that we've had? I know we do have apologies from Kate, our board manager, who unfortunately is not well this week, and we send real best wishes to Kate. Hope that she's back next week and fit and healthy. So our thoughts are with her. And we've also had an apology from Sandra, who's not able to attend today, and send best wishes to her. Are there any other apologies that I need to be mentioning? We've had 1 or 2 through. Julie?
The only apologies that I've received from Judith Glashan, apologies for both meetings, and Jenny Dixon and Gina King for this morning.
Thank you. And forgive me if I don't go round and welcome all of our guests. We have a number of people from a number of our partner organisations in the county, and you're very, very welcome. And if there's anything in the meeting or after the meeting you wish to pick up with me, please just get in touch, and I'm very happy to have a conversation. So this is our timetable. We're almost on time to go into the video presentation from Imelda Redmond, the National Director of Healthwatch England. And she's going to say a little bit about what Healthwatch England is doing, as well as some comments about us locally. and I'll do a quick pause after that in case there are any questions on that. And then I will present our annual report to go through that. I will do the presentation and then we'll pause for comments and questions after that. And then Esther is going to present Young Healthwatch, and then we've time for questions again at the end. So I hope that all makes sense to everybody. And
there's a hand up from Roger.
Is there a hand up from Roger? Thank you very much, Roger. Have you got a hand up at this moment? Please raise your point. You're not unmuted, Roger, so we can't hear you. Okay.
No, thank you, David. I don't know where the hand came from, but it wasn't mine.
Well, if you go into the participant box, this is for everybody. It's gone. Joe probably has cancelled it for you, but you'll see there's raise hand, and I've just raised my hand. Then there's a lower hand, and it's the lower hand to take it away. And there's a message on my screen that says my internet connection is unstable, which is really encouraging at this stage of the exercise. And my hand isn't going on, Joe. So there it's gone. So shall we go on to the video from Imelda? And just so it knows, the screen is coming from Joe, who's the video from Imelda Redmond. It's working, so over to that. There we go.
Fingers crossed it will come through all right.
Not hearing sound.
No, sorry, nor am I. Hang on.
We need to go to the beginning of the video.
Apologies. Just need to mute.
Hello, I'm Imelda Redmond and I'm the National Director at Healthwatch England. Thank you, David and Kate, for inviting me to participate in your AGM this year. And we know AGMs are funny things, they look back at the year before, so we're looking at 2019 to 2020. And I just want to congratulate the board, the staff and all the volunteers at Healthwatch Northamptonshire for doing such a great job during that time. Of course, all that now has been overshadowed with the work that we are doing on COVID. I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking to you about the priorities that we have around responding to the COVID pandemic. Healthwatch England has three priorities when it comes to responding to COVID. The first one is to ensure that the public get high quality and timely information. That has remained a priority and will continue as we move into different, more complicated tiers of COVID. Now, what we do is we help produce and disseminate that information, but it's really critical that that is disseminated locally, because it's Healthwatch in Northamptonshire that knows its community much, much better and can get that information out in the right way. Our second priority is to make sure that we support the network to do the best possible job they can to respond to the pandemic. And I have to say, I've been incredibly impressed at how people have stood up and really helped their communities during this very difficult time. And a massive thank you to all the staff and volunteers who really stepped forward to support their local communities, to make sure that people were less isolated, to make sure that shopping was done, medication was got, and that people felt connected and not alone in this time. Our other priority, of course, is to get the information from the public about their experience of using health and social care, either around COVID, but also for all ongoing health and social care needs. We take that information from right across the country, analyse it, and then use it in conversations with the Department of Health and Social Care and NHS England to bring about improvements. So we've been able to feed into things like guidance on care homes, guidance on social care winter planning, the big issue that people had around shielding and the quality of the information around then, around that when it first came out. Also, we got a lot of information back from the public about their anxieties about the early part of the pandemic and the do not attempt resuscitation notices. So we were able to bring some clarity, we hope, to that. Now, as we move forward, the priorities that are coming from the public change. We are doing some detailed work on what people's experience of hospital discharge has been like, and we'll be publishing that very soon. We also want to know from people about what it's like moving to the digitalised way of interfacing with health and social care services. Where does it work and who is left behind? A really important piece of work because we want to make sure that we're there for all our communities. We're doing much, much more than that, of course. But I just wanted to give you a taster and also just to wish you all the best for this AGM today. And just one little plug, Healthwatch England has a big conference coming up, an online conference. We're expecting a very big turnout. We'd really like to encourage you to apply to attend. You can do that by just going on our website and looking for the conference registration site. All staff, all volunteers, all board members are very welcome. We've got a great lineup of speakers. So I just want to say again, thank you to all the staff, the board members and all the volunteers for the incredible work you do in supporting your communities across Northamptonshire. And I really hope that we get to meet face to face in the not too distant future. Have a good meeting and thank you once again.
Thank you very much. Really helpfully during the presentation, my video went down and I've had to rejoin. So it seems as if all that went smoothly. Thank you, Joe. I did say we'd take questions. Can I just check, Joe, are you hearing me clearly?
Sorry, yes, I am. I think I've interrupted the presentation display though, so I'm just sorting that out.
No, everything's looking good for me.
Great.
Right, I have a question from John Rawlings, whose hand is up. So John, over to you. You need to unmute. I can't hear you, John. John, we can't hear you.
Sorry, start again. Bearing in mind that Northamptonshire is going to go into 2 different unitaries, you're not quite sure what our new structure will be, whether it be 1 or 2 health watches. I'd be interested in knowing how we could get an understanding of the structures and work of the other health watches up and down the country. Is there a mechanism which I can dip into?
Thank you, John. And it's an important question. There is a regional structure for Healthwatch managers and chairs. That's an East Midlands structure. And there is a very active online system for communication between the staff of the different health watches. But for all the members, I'm not so sure, and it's something probably we need to take away and think about. But Joe is usually on top of our communications systems. Is there anything?
There is a range of different structures. There are a number of unitary Healthwatch, small borough level to large county level. Pretty much everything is out there. So we can try and find some equivalent examples of size of Healthwatch to let you know.
Perhaps we can come back to this in the board meeting, but it's certainly important for us, and we're very involved with the discussions in the county about the transformations that's going to happen next April. John, do you want to come back quickly about that?
Am I still on mute? No. No, I'm okay with that. Clearly, I didn't know whether there was a national thing you could dip into, but clearly there's not. So we'll come back to it in the board because it's not really worth pursuing. It's just interesting.
Yeah, thank you. So I don't see any other questions on Imelda's presentation. So I'm now going to go into the presentation
Hello,
of our
David.
annual report. Rashmi, sorry, you want to say something? Come in, Rashmi.
I just want to make a point of as a how national importance is within Healthwatch England, and I think as an AGM, I just want to be acknowledged that in terms of how they're making funding part of the element through the the health as a national, and how we get funding for our particular organization, because it is important that this has been mentioned in AGM, so public are aware of it.
As I understand it, Rashmi, you are drawing attention to the fact that the local authority gets funding from government as part of their general grant for Healthwatch, but it's down to the local authority to make a decision. It's in their discretion how much of the notionally allocated money comes over to us. And without dwelling on it too much, I think we are in the lowest funded band, if you like, of Healthwatches in comparison with our population. And certainly that's one of the issues that we need to discuss with the two new unitary authorities. Each of them has to make a decision about how they organise Healthwatch from next April. And our contract is renewed at the end of June. And there are discussions going on about whether we have one Healthwatch or two Healthwatches and how that will work. But the funding question is an important one. And at the moment, we're funded among the lowest in the country, I think is fair to say.
Just to add quickly, the Healthwatch England put together an annual state of support report for the Secretary of State for Health and Care. They're currently working on the latest version, and they were just confirming with us yesterday our current funding situation. So there is a sort of national effort to highlight that.
And good. I don't see any other hands raised. I see your hand was raised, Rashmi. Thank you. So you need to, that's great. Take it down. So getting into the overview then, I've already referred to the extremely challenging times for health and social care in the context of COVID. And just to say that it is really difficult for us. Most of our volunteers are interested in being involved because they can visit places which are delivering service. They can talk with service users and patients and the public and get a real feel for how services are operating, and then give recommendations about what might be done to improve things. And of course, most of that is now impossible. So in our board meeting after this general meeting, annual meeting, we will be starting the process of really thinking about how we can fulfill our accountability to the public, our responsibility for looking at what happens. And just to be absolutely blunt, we all know from research that the more closed institutions, service providers are, the more risks there are for the people in those. That's not to be critical of anybody. It is just a fact of life that if there aren't people watching what's happening in a positive and constructive way, things can start to go wrong really quite quickly. And we've seen that particularly in the last few years in in learning disability services, where there have been some public inquiries, but it applies everywhere. So it is really important that we take that responsibility seriously and find new ways of monitoring how services are being delivered. And we take that seriously, and we need to have those conversations with providers. But of course, it's also the county council reorganisation time we've been seeing. The county council is in the process of splitting up. But at the same time, the health service was coming together in the one Northamptonshire clinical commissioning group, and the two hospitals are working together much more with a common chief executive, a common chair. The Children's Trust is county-wide. So all of those things are presenting challenges for us. Actually, it is a phenomenally active time, even without COVID. and keeping on top of it for volunteers and for those of us who are involved in Healthwatch is a challenge when there are people working full-time in the multi-million pound organisations that are delivering services. For us as Healthwatch, on around about 200,000 budget with staff, most of whom are part-time and volunteers, that's a real challenge for us. And we need to be thinking, but there are positive things going on in the Health and Care Partnership about new forms of joint working and engagement. And it's really important that we do that. But I want to pay tribute right at the beginning to the volunteers, the board members and all of our volunteers who have stuck with this through the year that we're reporting on, but also in recent months. And with the staff as well, who've all changed to be working from home. That's presented new challenges. And I don't know that as far as the board or as far as I'm concerned, that we've always got that right. There have been regular meetings for staff and so on, but some of the informal links that we've had have not been working in the same way, of course. And as a board, we are already reflecting on that and thinking about how we can make it better. So looking back then on 2019-20, just our year in numbers, very quickly, all of this is in our annual report, so I'm not going to dwell on all the points, but 52 volunteers, around £200,000 worth of funding, 1,600 people have shared their views with us, almost 460, nearly 500 people accessed our online complaints guide, 10,000 people visited our website, and we published 11 reports. So this was an active year, and this is the year obviously ending last March. And we did this with a staff team. Here you see our staff team, and our thanks to all of them, and particularly for people who have continued working from home with all the pressures of family and commitments and finding new ways of working. We provided new equipment for people. We've been very conscious of health and safety, but I'm sure there are things that we could improve further. So thanks to all of you on the screen there for all you've done over the year in question, but also more recently. But of course, we also have our volunteers, and this is our board. If you don't like your photo, anybody, let us know. We could get some new ones, but this is our board. We come from all over the county, from Corby and from South Northants and from Wellingborough and from Kettering area, and of course from Northampton as well. So thanks to all of you for all the work you've done in contributing to the reports and keeping us on track. And of course we link with the Connected Together KIC, the community interest company that holds the contract for Healthwatch with the County Council, and Will is the chair of the KIC, is on this presentation. So thanks for the continuing connections there, and we're having discussions about how we can make all that work better. So we move on to the vision, which is saying that we need to be a strong, resolute and independent community champion to give local people a voice, to influence the design and quality of health and care provision. And you can always do that better, always find ways of doing it better. And there's quite a discussion in the Health and Care Partnership about how we should be ensuring public and patient participation in health and social care. Both of those are important. And we are involved in those conversations. But the county, the last Health and Care Partnership Board last week agreed a proposal. We'll look at it briefly in our board meeting later about setting a gold standard. And that's really lifting the quality of the involvement of people in Northamptonshire. There's a big drive to do that, but it means changing structures and decision making and involving people in new ways. And that will be a challenge because, to be blunt, in Northamptonshire, we haven't always done that very well. We don't have a high reputation for doing all of that, and we need to change it. And with the new local authorities coming, this is an opportunity for doing things differently. So looking at the work of our volunteers, We have people on the board you've seen. We have a planning group that delivers strategy, leads the project task and finish groups, involves volunteers in deciding our priorities, using their experience and expertise, representing us in a number of places, and proactively gathering and listening to views and experiences. And we can always do that better. And the board is reflecting on how we can do that better in these new circumstances. So some of the activities and reports that we've presented, working in partnership, it's always in partnership. I know colleagues from the provider trusts are with us listening, and thank you for your cooperation. We took part in a big, and in fact we're jointly organised a big ideas conference last May before last. We've had the Adult Social Services User Service. We've been to, we particularly focused on mental health, which was very timely because the pressures on mental health services are growing. We've done 15 steps visits, and our two colleagues who did those, Sheila and Wendy, have been nominated and are in the shortlist for an award from Healthwatch for their huge commitment. We'll touch on some of these points later. And we've done consultations and outreach, and our Young Healthwatch has won awards, and we're very proud of the work that they do. So moving on to the detail, the Northamptonshire Adult Social Services User Survey that we did looked at the work that was being delivered, and this was, we were asked to do this by Adult Social Services, and we did this in partnership. And at the bottom there, you see 30% of people rated their overall satisfaction as good or excellent, whereas 44% were very poor or poor. And we know these are challenging times, and we hope that these findings and the survey that we did helps the new unitary authorities as they're setting up their services. But this was a good partnership with Adult Social Services and something that we wish to build on. Mental health services I've already talked about. We visited some crisis houses in the county, the Crisis Cafe at Wellingborough, and I know NHFT, the Northamptonshire Health Foundation Trust. I probably got the name wrong, apologies. In fact, it's there, the Northamptonshire Healthcare Foundation Trust. They have been developing their mental health services in response to COVID, and there's been some very good presentations and material coming through, which we need to follow through. But there's reports there on crisis care. If I'm looking to the side, that's because it's easier for me to read my screen on my own computer, which is to the side, but it's the same text that you've got. We also went to St Andrews, and this is a very much a trial run. It wasn't a fully grown enter and view. And John Rawlings was reminding me earlier today that a new report has just been published identifying continuing issues around St Andrews healthcare. So we did a 2-hour visit to one of the wards. We agreed our report. There were some issues there, but of course St Andrews is in the national spotlight because of concerns around aspects of the service there. We're involved with the improvement board there. Some of our staff have been attending those meetings. But it's a national issue for Healthwatch, how much we should get involved with service providers that are providing national services. And many people come to St Andrews from all over the country, indeed from other countries as well, but it's on our patch, so we need to keep involved there with St Andrews and think about how we can best support them. So we did general information and signposting, giving guidance. We've helped out 129 people. Somebody's unmuted. Somebody unmuted and sound came through, thank you. we've had feedback from various people, and if necessary, we make a safeguarding referral and we can give advice to others. We're not a complaints route, so if people come to us with real concerns, we can signpost them to the proper places to take forward complaints. But we make information available. So some of the areas that people have asked us about this year, you can see there the donut. We've had a lot of queries about primary care. This was last year, of course, and this year we're into a different situation with COVID, but we've got GP services, hospitals, social care, dental services, which have become probably our top area of concern. I can say that personally, as I'm nursing 2 teeth that need treatment, and that's been from several months now, but I have to say treatment is next month, so it's moving on personally, but we all are users of services and have an interest in these things. So dental services is a real concern for a lot of people. Mental health services I've already touched on, and you can see there some of the areas that people asked us about. So looking forward and getting on, and I'm nearly at the finish of this, and then we'll have some questions. We've got some ongoing projects looking at children and young people. Joe said there was a typo in the mental health figure. We'll correct that, but I think it's right in the annual report. I hope so. Ongoing work and projects, children and young people, demonstrating impact of our own work is a real issue for us. It's not easy, but following up on things, we can easily issue reports, but we need to follow up on recommendations and see what happens. I've talked about the unitary authorities. We're getting more requests from our partner agencies, particularly from the County Council and from the Clinical Commissioning Group, to do projects. And there are things that other health watches around the country do. We're particularly interested in the patient participation groups in GP centres and how we can link those more effectively together through the primary care networks. And obviously, we're continuing our 15 steps audits at KGH. We've got some reaccreditations coming up with volunteers and for children, and we've got the continuation of our meetings. So our priorities, as we agreed it earlier this year, before when we were still able to meet, are focusing on KGH, Kettering General Hospital, big redevelopment of accident and emergency, but also KGH is one of the hospitals in the top priority group for redevelopment. So there's big issues there. We picked up on dentistry actually before the COVID period. So there are issues in there, and social prescribing has been a real concern for us. And we're aware that the timetable for agreeing the spring partnership is running out. So we're really keen to see that moving on, and we'll discuss that briefly in the board meeting today. There's the 15 steps audits. I've talked about primary care networks, and there's discharge from hospital issues really thrown up by the COVID period, and really important that we look at those new issues that are coming up. There's a big project, ICAN. We had a presentation from Joe Forkus at Kettering Hospital about that at our planning group last week, and there's some ambitious ideas about improving arrangements, in fact keeping people out of hospital, but there's some big challenges for health and care providers. And then the additional priorities since COVID are increased engagement with Black and minority ethnic communities, and what I heard is seldom heard groups, and we're very conscious of that. I referred to it in my opening comments. And we need to seriously think about how we work in that context. New ways of working and the delays to diagnostics, treatments and procedures that is only going to get more difficult as the COVID hospital admissions are likely to increase further. We link with Carers' Voice, and that's an important link for us. We provide some support to Carers' Voice, and I'm really interested in how we can build more connections between Healthwatch and the different organisations like Age UK. Carolyn from Age UK is on our board, and Carers' Voice and other groups to get a much more effective and in a way coordinated, without being too heavy about it, way of getting the voice of people who use services into the whole decision making and monitoring process. Well, that's been an overview of our year and of the recent period, and I said we'd take some questions now. So let's invite anybody who wants to put their hand up. Raise hand at the bottom, and very happy to take comments. If Joe Watt, who's the chair of the Clinical Commissioning Group, a GP in Corby. Joe, really great that you're with us. Thank you so much for giving us that time, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I just really wanted to say a really big thank you on behalf of Clinical Commissioning Group for everything that you've done. I appreciate that this AGM is for last year, and obviously at that point I was only chair of Corby rather than chair of Northamptonshire, but really appreciate everything that Healthwatch has been doing, everything that your team have done, and certainly that engaged focus on what matters to and just really big thank you. These are difficult times. We appreciate that the public's wants and the public's needs are not always the same thing, and actually public expectations is something that is increasingly difficult to manage, and we appreciate there's a lot of tension out there, a lot of emotion, and really appreciate the work that we've been doing together to support our public with the needs that they have.
Joe, thank you so much, and thank you also for the support. I represent Healthwatch on the CCG board, and that meets in public now on Zoom and used to meet in public, but is always receptive to getting feedback. We need to find, we've discussed in the NHCP, the Health and Care Partnership, making that work better. But it's really important at this time. So thank you, I really appreciate that. Paul Crofts has put up a hand, and then Marcia. Thank you, Joe. Paul.
Hi, thank you very much. Question, really. I'm chair Queensway Medical Centre in Wellingborough Patient Group, and the Wellingborough Health Engagement Group, which is part of the CCG. And I'm increasingly concerned that all the arrangements for involving and consulting with patients has seemed to have been suspended now for a long while. Now, at the beginning, obviously, of the pandemic crisis, we obviously understood that all priority and all time and effort was being given to direct clinical support at the front line. And but I think now, as has been referenced by the previous speaker, there's growing that the problems are now not so much to do with response clinically to the pandemic, although no doubt that's still a serious issue, but about the way the public is responding, because that is having a serious impact potentially on the actual spread of the pandemic itself. If people don't follow the guidance because they don't believe in it or they don't feel involved, then this is a serious issue. And I think, and I would like to know at what point it seems deemed to be important for the health services to re-establish arrangements to talk to and involve patients in making decisions. And to give you one example, I am aware, and this is just from Queensway Medical Centre, that people that are normally extremely supportive of the NHS and supportive of Queensway Medical Centre are increasingly getting angry and frustrated because there's a lack of communication with them about why things are so bad, frankly, in terms of getting GP appointments, in terms of the suspension of care in primary care in hospitals, of getting appointments, follow-up treatments, repeat, getting this. Basically, there's people who are normally extremely rational and supportive are getting increasingly concerned and angry. And I think this is going to get even worse. And I can do nothing about it because I'm not involved in discussions with anybody now, despite the fact that I chair the two groups. I'm increasingly having difficulties communicating with my GP practice, and I have no communication now at all with the CCG or indeed other colleagues who are involved in patient groups at other GP surgeries. So this, so I'm raising this as a serious question, which I wonder if what Healthwatch might be doing to re-establish patient involvement.
I think that's a very fair question, Paul, and I think it's reasonable to expect that, as Joe Watts was saying, that public concern about this is going to increase, and we need to have good channels to pick it up and to challenge things. And Healthwatch has got a statutory responsibility to do that. So we have to listen, and we have to find new ways of making those connections. I don't know, Joe, whether you would wish to comment at all, but I think all we can say, Paul, is it's important that we've raised it. We are aware of it, and outside the meeting, we can have some more conversations, because all of these things need to be linked together. And we need to, and I think I can say that as a public voice in the various meetings, we are, I know that those who are involved in organising things are aware of the problems. Joe, are you still hearing me?
Yes, I put a comment in the chat bar. Do you want me to speak as well?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think I absolutely heard the comments that you mentioned. I'm more than happy to look into the issues you raise. We do absolutely listen as a clinical commissioning group. Very much value comments that we receive. Be happy to look into those. So I will do.
Thanks, Paul. And it's important. Thank you for raising that, and it's important that we hear and link into what's happening. And outside the meeting, we can come back. I'm just conscious that I think my internet connection is being a little bit wobbly. But Marcia, you were next, and then John, and then Roger.
Thanks, Paul. And nice to see that you're in the group. Thanks very much. I wanted to just add, I know it's a board meeting, but it cannot be left alone to say the involvement of the planning group, of which several of the board members are part of that planning group. And Paul, that sort of issue, would be a thing, up following discussions that the planning group could pick up, yes? And look at. Sometimes it's difficult just to walk into somewhere, but once you've got somebody that's raised an issue with us. So many thanks to the planning group, particularly, because they are like the strategic operators, they're the ones that pick up the research and have that role. So I've noted it, Paul. It's not alien to us, and it's a really important issue. What's happening out there. We can only know sometimes when people like you bring it forward to us. So many thanks. And you've already had one person say, and I'm chair of the planning group, which is really exciting. It's an interesting group of people. So I'll do something with them.
I should have introduced you, Marcia, as Vice Chair of Healthwatch and Chair of the Planning Group. And that's an absolute engine room of the organisation, which picks up some of these issues. And one of the things we'd like to do is to find ways of connecting more effectively with PPGs so that we can get that sort of intelligence. It's something we can discuss with the CCG. Thank you very much, Marcia, and thank you for all your work on the planning group. I've got John, and then Roger, and then Rashmi. And Karam, I think you're not on mute. If you could go on mute, I think we're getting some background noise from you, if you don't mind. But thank you very much. Thank you, John, and then Roger.
Okay, thank you, David. I wonder if you could just expand a little bit on our interim view. Over the years, I think it's been one of our very successful operations. I've been involved with many, with a number of our colleagues today. what we've never had to do in Northamptonshire is use our right to enter and view. It's always been done by negotiation. Sometimes it's been difficult, and even some of the difficult ones have ended up with very, very positive results where the staff and the managers have appreciated the work we've done. Now, you did mention the national body like St Andrew's Hospital, and of course it is difficult because we can only report what we see, and of course it is a large national body, and of course we did have some difficulty in making connections, but we did visit. But what we only visited one section, and we could only report what we saw, which came out as a fairly positive report. So it's just a little bit embarrassing then to read two reports nationally from CQC. So all I'd like you to do is to really make the point very strongly that, as you have originally done here, I think you've said it is a national body and it was a trial, but that is not the normal enter and view that we do. If you could just explain how sensitive we are when we do operate.
Yes, thank you, and possibly, John, you know more about this from all your years of experience than I do. But we have a right of enter and view, but we're not an inspectorate. So it's a different relationship, and we don't have a duty of enter and view, which inspectorates do have. We can, with using our volunteers, we have a right to insist on going into somewhere if we need to. Usually, to be honest, if something is so serious, we would refer that to the regulator or somebody to go and do the view. If we were really seriously concerned about something, it's their job to do it. But most of our enter and view either is part of a project, like with the mental health cafes. It's not because we're worried about it, but because we want to learn good practice as well as poor practice. But with St Andrews, we hadn't been to see anything for a very long time, and just over a year ago, we agreed that we would do a trial and see how that worked. And we did the visit to one ward, and as you say, you were part of that, as was I, and we can only report on what we see. But we flagged up that we are aware that St Andrews has got a number of critical inspection reports, and so we need to take the whole picture in the round. Is that okay? I am really conscious of time, but I'm sure we'll come back to St Andrews. I've got Roger and then Rashmi, and then I've got nobody else. We'll move on to Young Healthwatch. So Roger first and then Rashmi.
Thank you, David. I put my question on the chat, and it's about the new unitary structure. Although we've touched on it quite a lot, I'm not sure we as the current board have taken a view, and presumably it will depend on how much grant we get. But I'm just wondering about, I mean, for example, if we have to divide the staff in half, how that's going to work, yeah, including where they're located, and also the I don't know where it's a complication, but I mean, we've got Rutland, which is the smallest county in the country that is adjacent to us.
Yes, well, the board did take a view.
Oh, sorry, I must have missed that. Yes.
Well, it did take a view, and it took the view, and it wasn't planned, but it came from the floor, that we would prefer that the two unitary authorities would work together to create a single Healthwatch structure of some kind covering the whole of the county, and that would made sense because of the health service structures which are county-wide, as I said, the Northamptonshire Clinical Commissioning Group, and the hospitals are now working county-wide, and the Children's Trust and the police are county-wide. So it would make sense, but we would also have to recognise that there would have to be a focus on each unitary authority in some way, so we could have a substructure, and we're actually discussing whether we should anticipate that and set up a north and west subgroups to anticipate that change. But the there are some complications around that. I see Will, the chair of the KIC, the Community Interest Company, has flagged that he wants to comment, and probably on this. So Will might want to develop that. The formal position is that the Community Interest Company holds the contract for Healthwatch with the County Council at the moment, and that Healthwatch is supported by the KIC. Will, do you want to come in, and I'll then come to Rashmi?
Yeah, okay, David, thank you very much for that, and thank you for the kind introduction. And also, I thought this was a great question, of course, and well, there were two things really. Just on the Northamptonshire position, very happy to support any discussions over the right mechanisms and structure and approach that that basically help the people of Northamptonshire and also our strategic stakeholders. So always available for a chat, David, and I'm very happy to help take that forward in the best way to support the Healthwatch Northamptonshire board. On the Rutland position, that's an interesting point, because actually we also hold the contract for Healthwatch Rutland, as it happens, which of course is a totally separate organisation. But I think that that's an interesting point. So again, it's not in my gift, because of course these are the health watches, as you know, are actually the bodies of the upper tier authorities. So you know, it's not they are, if you like, our commissioners' bodies that we help facilitate. So, but if it was helpful, I'd be very happy to try and facilitate a conversation at the right time with Rutland, and I'm sure, I don't know what the outcome would be, but very happy to facilitate a conversation.
Thank you, Will. And just to be clear, that the two health watches, Northamptonshire and Rutland, run completely separately with different management structures. They're both contracts held by the Community Interest Company, connected together, but they operate quite separately, although the staff do some of the work for both. I know there've been one or two projects that staff from Healthwatch Northamptonshire have supported Rutland on. Thank you, Will. And Rashmi, I think you're the last one to comment, so over to you.
Yeah, it is just to do with the, you mentioned about the gold standard from the NHCP that, you know, they want to implement in the county. And I just wonder whether there's also related to health and social care, and also not only that, in setting up of that gold standard, what engagement has been there, and in terms of, we also talk about the quality, so what will be the, in terms of giving finances attached to it, because it's one thing to have a gold standards, but if you can't support them, it's meaningless.
Absolutely right. And that was the discussion at the Health and Care Partnership last week. We have been involved. Sandra represented us in one meeting, and I think Joe went to another meeting. And of course, we've been involved over the last many years in these conversations. So Healthwatch is absolutely in the centre of the discussions about how things should be set up. But the Health and Care Partnership, in improving the paper last week, recognised in principle that there was the need to resource it properly and to think it through. And that structure and what the resourcing implies is still being worked up, and we're involved in that in some ways. So they're the right questions, and we're still in the conversation, and some of the decisions are still to be made. And of course, in a very, very difficult context for health and social care and local government funding. So it's a real challenge. But if we're going to make it work properly, we've got to have some, I don't know what I was just thinking what the right metaphor would be, but some sort of, it's not bare knuckle negotiations, but some tough negotiations to say, if we want this seriously, as you say, Rashmi, it's got to be funded. It's got to be built into the structure. And those were the points that I and others made at the Health and Care Partnership last week, and we're involved in taking it forward.
Can I just add one more? You said we as a Healthwatch involved in setting up that gold stand, but I just wondered in terms of wider context with, service use and all that in the community, how the engagement is there, because Healthwatch as a representation is one thing, but it's actual the people receiving the services.
Quite right. And there's a whole network of organisations representing people with different conditions and different disabilities, different age groups and so on. And a number of them were involved in that consultation. And one of the challenges, I think, for us is how we come together as a community of people who use health and social care. We have many different perspectives, many different personal concerns, but it has felt quite fragmented over the years, all these different structures, and we can't impose a uniformity because the richness comes from the diversity, if you like. Sorry, that sounds a bit like a jargon, but we have to respect people's own circumstances. But if we can come together in a more coordinated way, we perhaps could be more effective. And I think that is the challenge for the new contract for Healthwatch and for the new unitaries. Rashmi, your last point, and then we've got to move on.
I just want to, I'm not a point, it's just that when if they do through chat or questions, can they be, because I can't listen to the chat and listening, so I wouldn't know if anybody making point or
Absolutely, and I can tell you that from my reading of the group chat, there aren't any things that you've missed. People are not using it a lot, so and that's fine. So we'll remember to keep you informed. Thank you, everybody. That's been a really rich conversation and has pulled out some of the challenges that we're facing for the system as a whole, from Paul at the very beginning and Joe, and some of the specific issues about involvement of different groups and so on. Which are a constant challenge, and we've got to keep coming back to. And I can rely on board members to keep raising them, because and in the planning group, because I can assure everybody who's listening that we have robust conversations in those meetings, as Marcia was saying. Right, Esther, it's over to you to tell us about Young Healthwatch. We're due to finish at 12:30, so we've still got half an hour. I know your presentation isn't that long, so we're going to come back for some more questions at the end. Esther, over to you.
Hi, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Esther Stimpson. I'm a project manager and Young Healthwatch lead in Northamptonshire. Young Healthwatch has been around for around 5 years now, so about a year before I started. Come the next slide, Joe. Ooh.
Sorry,
that's okay.
Don't know where it's gone. Okay.
So they live in Northamptonshire. They're between the ages of 11 and 24, and they want to make a difference locally. They know that they're not the voice of all young people, but they're there to make sure that the voice of young people is heard, and their job is to go out and make sure they can hear a wider voice as well and consider others. Next one. So some of the work that we have been doing over, like with the adult volunteers, this looks at our work last year and not this year. So we've continued to work with both Northampton General Hospital and Kettering General Hospital. And if you remember at last year's annual meeting, NHS England awarded us with the Celebrating Participation in Healthcare grant to showcase the work that we'd done with the 15 Steps visit with Shooting Stars at Kettering General Hospital. The film was premiered at Cineworld in Northampton in April and was really successful. Thank you. In November last year, so nearly a year ago now, Young Healthwatch took part in Takeover Day at both Kettering General Hospital and Northampton General Hospital this year. The day was really, really successful, and all of the volunteers, the young volunteers, not only enjoyed the day but feel like they had a real impact. The Patient Experience Network recognised that, and we were shortlisted for a Penner Award, which we unfortunately didn't win, but it was amazing to be shortlisted. So here's a video of Takeover Day at Northampton General.
We're not getting sound, Joe.
There isn't yet.
Ah.
Really pleased that you're here today, because having your perspectives on us as an organisation, us as a local hospital and our services through the eyes of a young person is so important. So I really want to hear your feedback. Okay, whether it's good or bad, you know, let us know what it is, and then we'll listen to you. We're here to listen, and then please come back again.
Again. The people that we were around were really nice, really helpful, and we learnt so much and did so many new things, and the whole day was just really engaging.
I'd love to come back to Northampton General Hospital again, because there's a lot of stuff that we've learned about the hospital that we didn't know before, and there's lots of things that we could use to improve the hospital, and we can give their feedback on it.
The environment is very friendly, all the staff are lovely, and they just make you feel really welcoming.
We did a food tasting session, which is the food that they give out on the children's ward, and we tried it all and gave our input on it, and Manny came down and said our feedback was really useful, and hopefully they use it and make the menus even better than they are now. My favourite part of the day was going to the simulation unit. It was just good putting all skills to use, communicating with the patient, putting all practical skills together and just making it better.
My favourite part of today was going to the Disney Children's Ward and finding out lots of new information about what they do and how they help the children in their education.
I think my favourite part was the simulation, because you can experience what it would be like putting a patient to sleep, what they would do if someone broke their leg or something.
So just to add, one of our members that attended that day is now off at uni studying to be a physiotherapist. So it's really important for us that our young people get those experiences, because they are the future staff of the NHS as well. So this year we've also continued to work with Northamptonshire Young Carers Service. This is a piece of partnership work that or working with partners that really works. It benefits us as a service because it means that we get to hear the view of young carers, but also it means that young carers get to volunteer with us, and they get that opportunity to be part of another group as well, make sure that the voice of young carers is heard. So last year we conducted a survey that was a continuation of our wellbeing project that we'd done the year before, and we managed to ask 85 young carers between the ages of 11 and 19 about their emotional wellbeing. And off the back of that, we have now got some young carers that are members of Young Healthwatch. So that was absolutely fantastic for us. Last year we also worked on the PHSE project. It was a piece of work that we were commissioned to do by Public Health Northamptonshire. We managed to get the view of over 800 young people. And I'm not going to speak too much about it because there is a video that I'm going to show you now.
In the summer of 2019,
Young Healthwatch Northamptonshire were asked by Public Health Northamptonshire
to carry out a review of PSHE.
We wanted to understand what was valuable to young people in PSHE.
A survey was designed by Young Healthwatch Northamptonshire. We designed the survey in the Young Healthwatch meeting in April 2019.
To see what parts of PHSE were to be kept the same and changed across Northamptonshire in the eyes of young people.
In total, 823 13 to 15-year-olds took part in the survey.
We had paper surveys and online surveys to make it accessible for everyone.
What people told us?
44% of the people that responded identified as male.
52% of people that answered were 13 years old.
4% of people who responded had a disability.
2% of all young people that responded to the survey identified as non-binary.
Nearly half of the people who responded to the survey were aged either 14 or 15.
45% of people said that they have PHSE lessons 4 to 6 times a month.
50% of them said that they had no religion.
67% of people said that PHSE was given to them in specific slots on their timetable.
Also, 81% of people who answered the survey said that PSHE is taught by a teacher in their school.
In their PHSE lessons, most people had covered drug and alcohol abuse, e-safety and relationships. We held focus groups in 4 different areas of Northamptonshire.
Focus groups were held with around 100 young people. We wanted to find out the topics that young people had learned about. We worked with local partners to gather responses.
Some of the things that the young people at the focus group said were, we made a relationship with our tutor and we don't feel as awkward. Our tutor is passionate about teaching us PHSE and that is important.
Home-educated people told us that the main way that they learn about PSHE is from friends and family and occasionally the internet.
The way that PHSE was taught was also a hot topic. When the young people were asked, the top 5 most important topics were drug and alcohol awareness and online grooming,
sex education, relationships and e-safety. We also wanted to know the topics that young people wanted to know more about. It was important to find out what would improve PSHE lessons.
And some of their comments included
more interaction in group work.
For example, iPads or laptops.
And relevant information were some of the things that could help improve PSHE.
There should be more physical activities.
Most people told us that they would like to have PSHE in for specific lessons in their timetable instead of a club or anything.
There needs to be more engagement for the students to draw our attention.
Most young people told us that they were most excited about learning life skills and preparing for the working world.
I would like to have different teachers to teach us different topics.
When asked to rate the usefulness of the PHSE lessons from 1 to 5, with 1 being not at all useful and 5 being extremely useful. Nearly half the people rated their PHSE lessons a 4 or 5 stars.
The voice of children should be heard through PSHE lessons.
So, going on to the other achievements that we have managed to do last year, we've helped to design a new friends and family test cards for Northampton and Kettering General Hospitals, as well as a patient experience board as well for Kettering General Hospital. We're invited to NHS England's Youth Voice Summit, and some of our young people had the opportunity to ask Simon Stevens, Chief Exec of NHS England, some questions. We were re-accredited for our Investing in Children membership award, which shows that young people really do have, well, they're at the heart of the decision-making process for us. Next one. And we also put on training last September around the 15 Steps challenge that NHS England do. We were the first Young Healthwatch in the country to do that. And so we thought that we'd share that good practice with other health watches across the country. And we also had a young person take part in the PLACE audit, which is the patient-led assessment of the care environment at Kettering General Hospital. Again, the first young person in the country, we believe, to take part in such a visit. Our social media, we're trying to increase our following on there as well, and it has gone up over the last year. With COVID and needing to get messages out in different ways, social media is vital to us now. So if you don't follow us already on Instagram, Facebook or Twitter, please do. Just search for Young Healthwatch Northamptonshire and you'll find us. But what I wanted to do was say a massive thank you to all of our young volunteers. They've got a lot of other commitments going on, whether that's a caring responsibility, education or work. and they still find time to come along to the meetings. We haven't been able to have a meeting since February, I believe, and it's unlikely we'll have one before March. They have been really, really great at interacting throughout the whole of lockdown. And usually, like last year and the year before, we'd ask them to present at the annual meeting themselves. But this year, it didn't seem fair to put that extra pressure on them. And also presenting online is not very fun. So we thought we'd give them a bit of a break, and I'd do it this year. But a massive thank you. We've lost a few to university, which is really positive, and they're still around when they come back to Northamptonshire. But we're hoping that next financial year we'll be able to start up meetings again and continue the work. We have been doing work this year, but it's very, very different. So that's everything from me.
Thank you so much, Esther. And it's sad that we haven't got the young people involved. Actually, when I think about it, if we'd asked them to do the whole thing, it might have been better.
And to be honest, David, I know I've definitely got one young person online, and I did invite them all, but there's so many other commitments.
Yeah, of course.
It wasn't an expectation for them to be here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I'm just thinking, who's got the best skills in this? It's definitely not me, especially when
it's definitely them.
especially when my connection goes. Anyway, that's brilliant, and we're right on time for our timetable because we said we'd get to questions at 12:15. So our thanks to those, and if anybody from Young Healthwatch is listening, please or watching, please send our thanks and appreciation back to the group.
I will do.
It's a really, really important part of our work, and we're very proud of the fact that they've done such nationally leading work. And then they did the virtual visit, wasn't it, Esther, just recently? Virtual 15 steps.
We did a virtual 15 steps of maternity services at Northampton and Kettering General Hospital, and this year we invited a member of Young Healthwatch along to join in with that. So yeah,
it's, as far as we're aware, one of the first virtual 15 steps visits to an agency in the country. Of course, it raises big issues around, what you see and who's controlling the camera, and it's not the same as looking underneath the cupboards or checking down the back of things that are being hidden away. But it was a really creative way of getting to see things, Esther.
Yeah, so it was one of the first, and it's been recognised by Healthwatch England as being one of the first as well. So yeah, it has been really positive.
So we've got 15 minutes. I see Chris Davison is asking a question, and if anybody else wishes to put their hand up, feel free. But Chris, it's over to you.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep, it's going well.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Chris Davison. I'm a public governor with Northamptonshire Healthcare Foundation Trust. I represent the constituencies of Kettering and Corby. I also chair the membership and governance subgroup from the council. I just wanted to say I hope this finds you and your loved ones safe and well during these continuing uncertain and unsettling times. Thank you for the invitation. I've been really interested to hear all about the important work that you undertake. My background's in the NHS, so I understand the value that you bring. I would like to firstly say thank you to everyone at Healthwatch, but secondly, I'm going to salute you, Esther, for the work you're doing with children and young people. I came away from that presentation thinking, well, the NHS is going to be safe in the next generation's hands based on what they are doing. Bear with me, David, but I want to offer a potential invitation for Young Healthwatch to partner with our council. I had a conversation with Esther back in February because as chair of the membership and governance subgroup, I put forward to the full council that our PPI strategy, that's patient and public involvement, should focus on 3 key priority areas. They are equality, diversity and inclusion. They are children and young people and adults of a working age. Just for the benefit of those on the call, as an NHS Foundation Trust, we have members. Now, our membership needs to be representative of the community that we serve, and children and young people are a huge, resource. We have one young service user governor on our Council of Governors. We're made up of public governors, service users, partner governors. We have the Age UK, University of Northampton, Northants Carers. But I'm very conscious that we have just one young person on our council. And whilst it's not confirmed, I just want to start a conversation with you, and Esther particularly, about the potential for us to work together in partnership and offering a seat on the council for a younger person who can make sure that that young person's voice is heard within the context of what we provide in terms of our governance. So I'll pause there. I've probably got one or two things to add, but just that's my offer, just that we start that conversation. But Esther, well done, really well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Chris, by all means, drop me an email or give me a call. That's absolutely fantastic. It's definitely something that we would, I'm speaking for everyone, sorry, David and Will. Like, yes, that'd be great, thanks. But yeah, definitely it's a conversation that we need to have. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well,
it's good, and just to say to NHFT, as one of the few outstanding providers in the country of services, particularly in mental health, our congratulations and appreciation of all the work that's done at NHFT, which is really important, both at Berrywood and in the community. And it's something that really makes a difference in the county. So we're really good to partner with you. Chris.
Yeah, thank you. I think just again, people might not understand what we do as governors. And just so you understand, in an NHS Foundation Trust, the governance trail is members who elect the governors. We hold the non-execs to account, who hold the executives to account. And we have two legal duties, and they're two sides of the same coin. One is to hold the board to account individually and collectively for their performance. The other is to represent members and members of the public. And membership is just part of a tiered approach, as part of our PPI strategy. That could lead to consultation. It's about co-production, working with service users. That could lead to volunteering and actually employment. But our PPI strategy is about reaching those hard to reach groups. It's making sure that every voice is heard from every corner of the council, which is I'm committed to doing. And I recognise that this would link really well with what we're trying to achieve. So thank you for that and for the opportunity to address the meeting, David. And thank you again for all the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Chris. And that's really good to have that close working relationship. And to understand a bit better about some of the government structures in the hospitals, which I have to say can be a bit confusing to even those who are involved. I've got Philip Mays has asked to say something. Is that right?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Philip Mays. I'm the Senior Young Carer Worker. I work for Northamptonshire Young Carer Service and have worked very closely with Esther over the past couple of years now, I think. And just want to say thank you to Esther and to Young Healthwatch for including young carers in everything that they do. It's so important that young carers' voices are heard in relation to their own specific needs as young carers and also the needs of the people they care for. And I hope it continues, Esther. Don't forget about us.
No, it will definitely continue.
Brilliant. Glad to hear it.
Thanks, Philip. And just in passing to mention, one of the things that I was involved with young carers with was the video link with Nairobi. Over a year ago, we had a young carers event in Kenya, and it was good to link with, we linked with Canada and we linked with Northampton. And I think there was one other link as well, but it was great to have that. And I haven't forgotten, and I used some money for the travelling expenses, so I'll get back to you about that.
I'll let Joe know.
I think it's all of £17, but that's not from Healthwatch. That's from the Kenyan project funding. But so we reach into many different parts. Thank you very much indeed, Philip. I've got John again, and I'm conscious we got 5 minutes, and we're open for comments or questions about any of Healthwatch's work. It's not just Young Healthwatch. John, you're back again. If you could take your hand down, Philip, that would be great.
Well, I wait until I see nobody's hand up, and then I put mine up.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to see Paul at Paul Crofts again, because I go way back to the 1970s with race relations, etc. And if Paul is looking for more work, then I'm sure that volunteering with Healthwatch would be very interesting for him. But of course, with young people and the virus, it's even more important for Esther and our colleagues to promote the need to follow the rules and regulations, because sadly, it's among younger people, we're talking about, 15 to 29-year-olds, that where the biggest spread of the virus is. But it would seem to me that one of the areas, and we are, I understand, live on Youth too, but Chair, to actually make the point, there's always room for volunteers. It's not just ex-professionals or retired people that can come on board, but now is the time. Although we can't get out and about and do the reviews that we want to do and meet face-to-face, there's a lot we can do online and using our own networks. So I'd hope you then end this session, Chair, with an appeal for more people to get on board with us.
That's a fantastic advocacy, a really good promotion. And you're absolutely right that obviously the whole population uses the health service. Many people use social care, but Healthwatch is there for everybody. Whether you live in a big house or a multi-occupied house, and we really need to have volunteers from the rural areas and from the inner town. I wish I could say city for Northampton, but the inner town. It would be really good to have some volunteers and to join and those who are volunteers join the planning group with Marcia to shape what we do. I was reminded of governance, and there's a final point as we're getting to the end now, and I see no more hands are up, so I'm closing down the questions. Normally, I'm told that we look at the membership of the board. Perhaps we could go off spotlight, Joe, and put up everybody who's online if we can. But normally at this meeting, we look at those who are due to retire and those who are moving on from the board. But I think consistent with the local authorities in Northamptonshire, given that everything is changing, our contract is renewing next June. The proposal is that the board members continue for the next few months whilst we see through this change process. And then we'll have to take stock of a new environment. That's what the proposal is as far as board membership is concerned. And I hope people are happy with that as a report. It's difficult to deal with it in terms of voting. So we come to the last slide, I think now. Which is, Joe, are you switching us on? We've done questions, so we move on to the next one, which is the final thank yous to all of our volunteers. As Marcia says, all of our volunteers are able to be involved in our planning group, and a few of them are on the board. But our thanks to you, especially in these difficult times. Our thanks to our national stars in Young Healthwatch, and I totally agree it's really important that we have all of them involved. And thanks to the staff for bearing with the real difficulties. Actually watching Esther there with her staircase in the background, I'm amazed your children haven't run through the back and interrupted, and that happens
not
to
here
all
today.
Of us.
They're not here.
Very really challenging working from home in all sorts of different ways. So thank you for bearing with that. And as it says, we couldn't do any of this without you. But also to those of you who've attended, thank you for attending and for your comments and offers of joint work. if you can move on, Joe. We are looking forward to next year, and there are so many changes happening next year with the unitaries and with the new patient and public involvement strategy for the health and care partnership, the new Children's Trust getting going, and developments at Kettering Hospital, as well as all the changes that we're coping with in the delivery of health services. So it's going to be a challenging year, and we're up for looking at that. But I think that brings us to an end. So I hope I've covered anything. Marcia, as Vice Chair, I'll just invite you to say anything by conclusion, if you wish.
Well, what is a wish? Yes. Again, just to endorse, thank you to everyone for being with us, especially those people who have joined us this morning. It's really, really good to have, you know, people like Philip and Paul and Chris and other people who are not board members or volunteers, but are just interested in our work. Can I ask you to sustain that interest, not just, you know, at meetings like this? We are here all the time, 24/7. So, you know, staff are here. So just keep that interest going beyond, you know, a special day like today. It's valued. I'm sorry Paul is gone, and I know he will be as well, but he's busy, and I hope he can watch this again on YouTube to realize, you know, contributions. And I look forward to another year. I am seriously looking forward to planning group though, because that is the engine of the Healthwatch.
Absolutely. And
therefore I've said that to you, David, I'm not just saying that, I really do enjoy some of the achievements and things that they do. And I'm praying for Wendy and Sheila at this point. Yes.
We're up for the award.
Thank you everyone, and thank you board members, you know, for your hard work. I see all of you, I think, on the planning group. So many thanks, and thanks for a good meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Marcia. And you're right, that you give it that energy, and your wide connections and connect us with so many other things. But thank you for making time to be a key person in Healthwatch. Well, that's it, everybody. The end of our annual meeting. It's nice to reflect. It's nice to understand the challenges, and it's nice to be energized to keep going.
David,
and we're going to need that. Chris.
David, I'm sorry to cut in right at the end, but Esther will know one of my guilty pleasures is social media, and I tweet quite a lot. I'm not quite in the Michael Bublé territory, but I do have a lot of followers, and I wondered if everyone's happy. I've just taken a screenshot, not of everyone, but of a lot of people on the call, and I will just say great to come alongside Healthwatch. Thank you for all the work you do. I'll put up a couple of your slides, some of those facts and figures, and some of the people on the call. I just want your permission though, that you're happy for your face to go on Twitter. If you're not, then I won't put it up. But is everyone okay with that?
Well, it's difficult for everybody to vote, but we did say at the beginning that if you did not want to be shown, then take your video down. Okay. So I think we have cleared it that those who were showing their videos are okay to go forth. I hope that's all right. And thank you. I'm also on Twitter, Jones David N.
Yeah, I'll tag you. I was thinking of tagging you in, David. It raises awareness.
Yeah, it's important, and we're really active on social media. And Joe has just put the video recording link up on the chat as well. And we'll put that, I'm sure, on our website. But that's a really good idea. Thank you, Chris. So I think I'm going to draw it to an end here at just under 5 minutes over. I was expecting we might have gone more, but I really appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. The board is meeting later on today, but now we're going to go off, and thanks to everybody, and have a good afternoon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.